What's up, y'all? It's Marquise back with another countdown video. Before we get started on the video, do me a favor, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notifications button so that you can be notified whenever I drop a new video. This one is really interesting. We all know what's going on in the world with the coronavirus or COVID-19, and I figured I'd do like a 7 things that I learned from this pandemic. So again, subscribe to the channel, make sure you smash the like button, and let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So one of the things that I learned about the coronavirus is that it isn't new. The idea of a coronavirus isn't new. I didn't know that before. I didn't know that this type of respiratory illness existed before. So I was kind of taken by surprise when I first learned about it. If you look on the back of the Lysol can, it does say kills coronaviruses. That wasn't printed the day before we learned about COVID-19 or anything like that. So this has been around. This is just they actually classified as a completely different disease, or it's a new version of an old existing disease never seen before in humans. So I did read an article that said about 50% of people or of the population has had a version of the coronavirus before. We might have thought it was just a regular cold or the flu, but in fact it probably was the coronavirus. So that's something interesting that I learned. Kind of to think about it, another thing that I learned, and I've been known this, except it's become more apparent now. You have such a huge duty to the people around you. It is so important that you take care of yourself so that you can take care of the community. People who have historically sneezed in their hands, coughed in their hands, and didn't go wash them immediately, you're kind of nasty.
Oh, you're nasty.
And I hope now more than ever you realize the importance of sanitizing your hands and washing them, etc. A lot of people use hand sanitizer as a substitute for soap and water, when in reality sanitizer should be used if there's no soap and water, but until you can get the soap and water. So sometimes I get in my car and I'll put sanitizer on, and then once I get to the house I make sure I wash my hands thoroughly. So the infection is transmitted, well, the main way of transmission is through respiratory secretions. So if I sneeze into my hands and I touch my doorknob, and then somebody else touches my doorknob and touch their face and I'm infected, that's just kind of how it works. That's simple. And that's where any virus, a lot of bacteria and stuff is spread that way. So you do have a huge duty to the people around you by taking care of yourself, by not sneezing in your hands, just hit the dab on them, and so on and so forth. This next one is really, it's a huge deal. And again, I've known this, but I get to see it more apparent now. People have a deep capacity for a barbaric nature. And by that, when you go out into public, and especially when this pandemic first started, people panicking. So you go into the grocery store and there's no toilet tissue, there's no paper towel, there's no sanitizer, there's no disinfectant, there's no water. And the barbaric part of it is a single man or a single woman living alone, they shouldn't have 15 cases of water in their cart going to check out. That puts a lot of people at a disadvantage, people with families and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying don't take care of yourself, but the reality is you should just get what you need, not a surplus of it. So many of us are sitting on piles and piles of inventory, and people can't get what they need. First responders don't have masks, etc. So that's a barbaric nature. Also, we have the elderly who are at even more of a risk of getting infected and dying from the infection, and they have to go out multiple times in a day to multiple locations to see if they can get supplies. So that's a huge red flag or no when it comes to just taking care of your fellow man. Another thing that I see a lot of people doing on social media is complaining about the $1,200 stimulus check.
I'm an idiot! You're an idiot!
That is the nuttiest thing that I've ever heard of. This is $1,200 that you would not have had they not passed the bill. A lot of people are comparing the United States to Canada. Oh, Canada is doing this, and that for their citizens. Well, for one, it's not that accurate because you got to read the details of the bill to know exactly what's going on. Two, we have 300 million more people than Canada. All right, so I understand that it's not $10,000 or that it's not $5,000, but $1,200 is something. A lot of us don't even need the $1,200. Either we got a lot of money saved up or our jobs are not affected by this pandemic and we are still working from home, getting paid our full salary and stuff like that. So it's barbaric to kind of be ungrateful for that. It's an enigma to me. If you don't want your $1,200 or you're complaining about your $1,200, cash at me and I'll DM you on Instagram or something and tell you what I'm gonna do with it. All right. Something else that I learned, and this is actually a new revelation or discovery. Society is not where it needs to be. So you kind of go with the barbaric nature that people has had, and then you look at the state of the United States. We are like the land of the free and the home of the brave. We are the most esteemed country in the world. We are the land of opportunity. For us to be such a powerhouse and us to not be able to handle COVID-19 is quite an enigma to me. It's a head scratcher because we took a lot of our supplies and sent them overseas and of course help people, you know, be the superpower that we are, help people. But we have put ourselves in such a, we have given ourselves such a disability that everything has to shut down. Our first responders, firefighters, EMTs, nurses, hospital workers, stuff like that, they don't have enough supplies to take care of the people that are getting sick. We don't have the space nor the capacity to do that. Might I also add that I am a millennial. I was born in 1990. Most of the workforce is millennials today. We don't know what a pandemic is. Actually, most people don't know what a pandemic on this scale is, let alone a recession and everything like that. It was a recession in 08, 09. I understand that, the housing market and everything like that. But we were in high school, and though our parents could have been affected by it, we didn't necessarily feel the real burden of the recession or the pandemic or a pandemic. So this is all new to us. A lot of us don't know how to respond, and it kind of goes back to the barbaric nature, us freaking out and going to grab as many supplies as we can. So society is not where it needs to be. The United States is certainly not where it needs to be. And my prayer is that this whole ordeal has taught us something. Prayerfully, one day the coronavirus or COVID-19 can be completely wiped from the face of the earth, and we are never put in this position again, and not just us but any other place in the world. So it was interesting when I kind of saw that. The economy, this is also newer to me. Seeing the economy in the state. We talked about a recession a little bit just a while ago, but the economy is severely damaged from this. So many small businesses, even large businesses are suffering. I read an article that said Express, the clothing manufacturer store, they will have to go bankrupt. They will go bankrupt. AMC theaters might go bankrupt. And I'm just thinking like, wow, those are two places that I normally shop and go. And I'm just thinking to myself like, wow, like this pandemic has really put a burden on even large businesses, let alone small businesses. Yes, I understand that there are loan programs and everything like that out there, but a lot of businesses unfortunately will have to close their doors and people will have to go seek employment elsewhere. Small businesses are so important to the economy because unlike a real big corporation, and a real big corporation, if somebody goes to get another job or they get fired, they just replace that person or those individuals. But small businesses, as they start to scale and ramp up and create new locations, they have to hire an entire new staff. And that's why small businesses are so good for the economy. So the economy will be damaged, and I don't know how long it'll take us to recover. I know what the news say, but we know that everything that the news say isn't always reliable. And then the last thing that I really wanted to talk about was PPE, or personal protective equipment, whatever you want to call it. It's not that I'm knocking people, but we also got to be Like, we just got a rationale in our mind. We got to kind of use common sense. So, for example, if I go into the grocery store with rubber gloves on, let's just say I wore rubber gloves, and I touch my groceries. So, first of all, I'm wearing gloves with the ideology that something that I touch might be unclean or infected or something like that. That's why I'm wearing gloves, to protect my hands. So I go touch my groceries and I put them in my cart, and then I pull out my cell phone and I put it up to my face. That's cross-contamination. Also, if you are in a grocery store with gloves on, touching a whole bunch of different things, cross-contamination. I was in Target not too long ago buying a video game, and they had the price in Target higher than the online price. So when I showed the man on my phone, he had on rubber gloves and he touched my phone screen. I almost lost it. I was in the post office yesterday actually, and I took out my ID to pick up a package. I showed it to the young lady. I put it close to her face and she touched it. And again, I know sometimes we don't know better, but you wearing gloves lets you know that things can be infected. So please don't touch my personal belongings. You've been touching mail, you've been dealing with customers and stuff all day. I'll put it close enough to your face so that you can read it or whatever you need to do. But yeah, gloves is good. We should really be using the one-time use gloves. Make sure you use the right size. Gloves too small will easily rip. Gloves too big cannot easily be pulled off, or chemicals or germs and anything can get under the glove. So I like to, when I put mine on, if I put them on, I go into the store and I touch things, put them in my cart, check out. I take my gloves off, then I use my my card and stuff like that. And then when I'm going to my car, my gloves are off. I open my car door, I sanitize my hands, then I touch my steering wheel. I'm also seeing a lot of people touching their steering wheel with the gloves that they just went grocery shopping with. So just be safe. And then lastly, the mask. There are different types of mask. So you have your cloth mask, you have surgical mask, you have your N95, and then you have a P100 or a plastic respirator. The respirator is obviously the best thing that you can use. Not a lot of people have access to it. For a respirator and an N95, you do have to be fit. Well, it's an OSHA regulation that you have to be fit tested. So if your employer is giving you these, it's an OSHA regulation that you have to be fit tested for it. Just the construction of the face, the jaw, the mouth, how many teeth you have, and so on and so forth plays a big part on the fit of the mask. There's also medical questionnaires about your breathing situation, and there's also training videos and things like that to watch. Your surgical mask, that's typically what most people use, what I've been seeing. If you wear a mask, period, make sure that it's covering your mouth and your nose. People are wearing masks that are not covering their nose at all. So while it is protecting people from you spitting when you talk on them, if the air you're breathing in through your nostrils, it can be contaminated and you will still get sick. So I know it's hard to breathe and stuff sometimes, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. Also, it doesn't make a lot of sense to wear your mask in your car. If your car needs to be sanitized or disinfected, then you will have a whole nother situation. So if you're just driving from here to here and they're really close and you don't want to take off your mask, cool. But it's okay to take the mask off in the car. They shouldn't be reused too often unless it's the cloth mask or the respirator. But at some point, the N95s and the surgical masks, they do have to be discarded and you have to get another one. Obviously, the cloth mask should be washed and sanitized, and the P100, the plastic respirator, should be disinfected with the alcohol-based disinfectant solution or something like that. So, let me know down in the comments what you have learned from this pandemic. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate y'all for watching.